What is the purpose of autism? Not what is the cause, what is the purpose? I think there is a purpose. Let's talk about it. So I was really struggling making this video. How do I build a story? How do I make it entertaining? How do I get enough content together while still living life? And ultimately what helped me was going back to the purpose of why we do these videos as a family. We want to give inspiration and hope to families who are working to raise kids that are affected by autism and other developmental disorders. And I was thinking to myself, how do you get to the point where you can define a purpose for whatever struggle you have, whether it's work or whether it's something that you are suffering through? And if we really want to take this to the max, we say, how do we define the purpose of autism? Before we get to the answer, let's talk about some things that help me determine those answers for myself. The basis of my life and this channel really is a quote that I got from Tony Robbins, which I'm sure he got from somebody else, and that's, the quality of your life is a direct reflection of the quality of the questions you ask yourself and others on a daily basis.
Control to your own experience of life. If you change your consistent questions, you can change consistently how you feel, how you think, how you make decisions, and who you become. The only difference between you and other people is the questions that they ask. That's it. If you see someone who has more success, the first thing you should do is find out how do they think. See, thinking is nothing but the process of asking and answering questions. You're doing it constantly. That's all it is.
If you ask yourself really crappy questions, you're going to get crappy answers. Why me? Why does God hate me? Versus, what does God have in store for me? How is God going to use this? Where is the blessing in this that I can't see yet? How is God going to use this for something incredible in my life and the lives of those around us? How is God going to use this pain to make something beautiful? And I think that's a tool we got to use to help decide what the purpose is going to be for our lives and also the suffering and pain that we go through. So Tony Robbins turned me on to an amazing book by Dr. Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. To give you a basic idea, he's a psychologist who was in the Holocaust and went through the internment camps.
The lesson one could learn in Auschwitz: those who were oriented toward a meaning to be fulfilled by them in the future were most likely to survive.
Let me read something from a portion that I loved. A man who becomes conscious of the responsibility he bears towards a human being who affectionately waits for him or to an unfinished work will never be able to throw away his life. He knows the why for his existence and will be able to bear almost any how. So this is a great example that as long as you have purpose, it doesn't matter how bad or tough or painful life is, you can bear it. One of the phrases that I'd always grown up hearing from my family and from many people, to be honest, was the idea that God will never give you anything you can't handle. And only in the last few years have I heard something that actually makes a lot more sense than that. God will give you things to carry that you cannot carry on your own, and that's because He's using that as a way for you to be drawn to God. That you can bear any weight when you have purpose and when you have God in your life. When you know that that God will not let something crush you, you can carry almost any weight. So I feel that everybody in their life will have at least a handful of moments where they can very clearly sense God speaking to them, whether they hear the voice or whether they simply feel His presence in a very, very clear way where He is communicating with you. For me, one of those times came right after we'd received Nolan's diagnosis. We had just started going through the stages of grieving. Suffice it to say that we were going through the process of letting go of our expectations of what Nolan may or may not grow into before we could find hope in the opportunities and possibilities that he was going to have because he has autism. So one night I was putting the kids to bed, and this was pretty soon after we had got the diagnosis. I was praying over him, had my hand on his back, and I said, "Dear Lord, please heal my son." And I could very clearly feel God say, "Our." God, please heal our son, as in me and Riz, our son. Then I heard Him tell me to say, "Your." God, please heal your son. And in that moment, I realized that God did not punish us for something. God did not do something to us. He sent Nolan to us for a specific reason. He was trusting us with Nolan. And so there's something very reassuring when you are told that this is all part of the plan. I had another moment not too long after that where I was praying for God to show me if Nolan was going to be healed or not, or how was God using this. And in that prayer, I was searching on and looking for answers, and I was led to John 9 verses 1 through 3. And his disciples asked him, saying, "Rabbi, who sinned, the man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Jesus answered, "Neither this man nor his parents sinned, but that the works of God should be revealed in him." So that again was another moment where I realized that there's purpose here. Nolan having this disorder is not necessarily a punishment for something. It's a calling to something greater that we can show as healing. So I have a deep faith of my own that Nolan will be healed. And it's over time that I start to think that Nolan's already healed, and we are just discovering who he is and coming to grips that our expectations may not match with what God's plans are. And whether he becomes completely mainstreamed and is able to completely function in society and live on his own and everything like that, it's still too early to tell. But the idea that he has purpose of his own and he's not broken is something that gives me hope every day when I look in his eyes. And in this story, obviously, Jesus heals the man who is blind. Is it possible that he's already healed right now and we just don't see it? I can imagine that people in Jesus' time didn't recognize what a savior looked like because they had expectations of what he would look like. They thought it was going to be another David. They thought Jesus was going to look more like a king, conqueror, military figure that would overthrow, the rule. And really, it was Jesus who taught mercy and peace and love. And for him to die on the cross was not what they were expecting at that time. And I think we all need to struggle and look at ourselves in the mirror and say, are we looking past the beauty of what God is giving us because we expect it to look different? So now you're saying, okay, Ryan, so what is the purpose? What is the purpose of autism? What is the purpose of this? The purpose of autism so far in our life has been to teach us something. Has been to teach us a lesson that we could not learn any other way. To teach me to accept that God is in control and I'm not. To teach me that God has a plan that is beyond my comprehension. That God sees things from a perspective that is way farther than I can see. To be grateful. When my daughter is typical, the fact that I can have a conversation with her the way that I do, I am so grateful that I have my little girl. I'm so grateful that I have the partner in my wife that I have. I'm so grateful for the joy that comes every time Nolan makes just that little bit of improvement. The joy that comes every time he says, "Dada." Every time Nolan comes in here and he gives me one of these t-shirts because he loves it he only wants me to wear these t-shirts. So if I wear anything different, he'll actually come in, he'll go to my closet, get one of the clean t-shirts, we'll come over and we'll hand it to me and say, "Dada." God is using the purpose of autism is to teach that there is more to life than accomplishment. There is more than money. There is more than a big house. And sometimes you need that pain and something right in front of you to teach you that. Nolan's going to have his own purposes attached to it. He's going to be the one to define his own and to assign his own purpose to these things. I think that autism is going to bless him with the strength and an ability in some areas that we can't see yet. Not everyone with autism will grow up to be a savant in some area of their life, but he may. I think the purpose may give him another purpose in life. I think that maybe his autism he'll use as a tool to inspire other people as well. Maybe his autism will be used in conjunction with those abilities maybe his abilities will give him a purpose to be able to solve a problem that no one else can solve because of how his mind works. I love this quote from Temple Grandin.
At one end of the spectrum, you got half the people at Silicon Valley. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you've got somebody who's very handicapped, remains nonverbal, is going to have to live in a supervised living situation. Really, really big spectrum. And you know, Einstein probably be labeled autistic today in a lot of school systems because he had no speech until age 3.
And some kids with autism have a sensitivity to detail that makes it much better for them to do studies on things because they can see details that a typical mind may not be able to observe or notice. And I don't know what Nolan's purpose that he'll get out of it will be, but I know that I'm gonna try my hardest to teach Nolan and guide him to realize that the struggles that we're saddled with are blessings in disguise, and that he needs to find that positive purpose and not be a victim of autism, but be blessed by it. So I want to leave you with a challenge on this video. What is an example of something in your life that at the moment seemed incredibly tragic and painful, but you found a way to find purpose in that pain? Leave a comment in the video. I would love to hear from you guys. Let me know if you think that these videos are helpful or meaningful to you at all. If you've got any topics you'd like for me to cover, leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you guys. And make sure you click that subscribe button, and you guys have a great day. Bye-bye.